2 Kings chapter 1. These are the records of the kings of Israel after Saul and David and Solomon. And then a whole line of kings. Some were good, some were bad. After Solomon's son, the nation had a civil war and was divided. In the north was called Israel, and the south was called Judah. And now we're reading about the northern kingdom in Israel. The northern kingdom, by the way, 10 tribes stayed in the north, and the southern kingdom was called Judah after the breakage, after Solomon's son. And the southern kingdom, though, had Jerusalem and the temple. And so in the north, they called it Israel, and they kept 10 tribes, and they called it Israel. They didn't have the temple, so they made themselves their own temple. And it was sort of like a rival religious system then. So now we're reading about the northern kingdom. Verse 1, 2 Kings chapter 1, verse 1. Then Moab rebelled against Israel after the death of Ahab. And Ahaziah, this is the king of Israel, fell down through a lattice in his upper chamber that was in Samaria and was sick. And he sent messengers, and he said to them, Go inquire of Beelzebub, the god of Ekron, whether I shall recover from this disease. Now Beelzebub literally means Lord of the Flies, and it's not a good thing. And when he says, Go and inquire of Beelzebub, god of Ekron, he's saying, go to this foreign god of these foreign people and ask this foreign god Beelzebub whether I'm going to get better or not. Now, can you understand this is not a good thing? Without going into who Beelzebub was and who Ekron was, this is not a good thing for the king of Israel to say, go and inquire of these heathen people, of this heathen god, the Lord of the Flies. Go ask the Lord of the Flies whether I'm going to get any better. This is not a good thing that he's doing here. But the angel of the Lord said to Elijah, the Tishbite, Arise, go and meet the messengers of the king of Samaria. Samaria is the capital of the northern kingdom of Israel. And say to them, Is it not because there is not a God in Israel that you go and inquire Beelzebub, the god of Ekron? He kind of snitched on this king, and he told Elijah just what he had done. And he says, Go and confront him and say, It's because there is no God in Israel that you're inquiring of Beelzebub. Verse 4. Now therefore, thus saith the Lord, Thou shalt not come down from that bed on which thou art gone up, but shalt surely die. And Elijah departed. And this is a pretty severe, harsh... This is not the message, by the way, the king wanted to get. And when the messengers turned back unto him, he said, Why are you now turned back? In other words, he sent them off on this errand to Beelzebub. Now they've come back right away. You know, they didn't have time to get to Ekron. He says, Why have you turned back? Verse 6. And they said to him, There came a man to meet us, and he said, Go, turn again to the king that sent you, and say to him, Thus saith the Lord, Is it not because there is not a God in Israel that thou sendest to inquire of Beelzebub, the god of Ekron? Therefore thou shalt not come down from that bed on which thou art gone up, but thou shalt surely die. And he said unto them, What manner of man was he that came to meet you, that told you these words? Verse 8. And they answered him, He was a hairy man. I'm just picturing in my mind what this might have looked like. He was a hairy man, and girt with a girdle of leather about his loins. And he said, It is Elijah the Tishbite. He said, I knew it was him. That's what the king said. He didn't like Elijah, in other words. It is Elijah the Tishbite. And then the king sent unto him a captain of 50 with his 50. And he went up to him, and behold, he sat on top of a hill. And he spoke to him. In other words, the king sent a soldier with 50 other soldiers to get this Elijah now. And he spoke to him and said, Thou man of God, the king hath said, Come down. The king hath sent a soldier with 50 soldiers. And by the way, this was not so they could come and have tea and have a good time. He was in big trouble. He sent this soldier because he's mad, you see. And verse 10. And Elijah answered, and he said to the captain of 50, If I be a man of God, then let fire come down from heaven and consume thee and thy 50. And there came down fire from heaven and consumed him and his 50. Now, when it says fire came down from heaven, I believe fire came down from heaven. I don't believe it was the devil. I believe it was God. And you can see from the context of this, God sent the fire. And why did God send fire down from heaven and consume them? Well, they had it coming. That's why. They deserved it. And God, being just, and knew that they were... Listen, this king was sending messengers to Beelzebub. That fire represents his wrath and his judgment against their sin and wrongdoing. And let's just agree, they had it coming, right? They deserved it. God gave it to them. And There shouldn't be really any question about it. The only question is, why didn't everybody get it? The only question is how much mercy He has even in the Old Covenant. But you see, as we're reading this in 2 Kings, did you notice who's missing from this story? No Jesus in this story, is there? The mediator had not come yet. The mediator between God and man. So what we have at this time is holy, righteous God, sinful man. And if holy, righteous God and sinful man, if they get into an overt conflict, then fire can come down from heaven and consume them. And that's just what they got coming, right? Now, do you think, listen to me, do you think that the presence of the mediator, of Jesus, do you think that does anything to change that equation? Well, let's just find out. Look in Luke's Gospel, chapter 9. Let's just see, and I think this is a dramatic example of how Jesus, being in the mix, being in the picture, how Jesus changes the picture. Luke's Gospel, chapter 9, and beginning with verse 51. Jesus, in His ministry, went around all the cities and towns in Israel and was ministering to them. And Luke's Gospel, chapter 9, verse 51. And it came to pass, when the time was come that He should be received up, that's at the end of His ministry now, He steadfastly set His face to go to Jerusalem, because He knew that the time was near that He would be offered on the cross. Verse 52, He sent messengers before His face, and they went and entered into a village of the Samaritans. Now, do you remember what we just read in Kings, that the king was the king of Samaria? Now they're in this same region. They're going into a village of the Samaritans to make ready for Him. And they did not receive Him, because His face is as though He would go to Jerusalem. Now the reason is they had these, still at this time, they were rivals. They had a rival religious, they had their own temple in Samaria. And that's why the Jews didn't have any dealings with the Samaritans. There was a conflict between them. So when they heard Jesus was going to Jerusalem, they did not receive Him. In other words, they didn't show Him hospitality. They turned Him away. No, we won't receive you, they said to the messengers. Well, the messengers of Jesus didn't take this very well. They did not receive Him. Verse 54. When the disciples of Jesus, the disciples James and John, saw this, they said, Lord, wilt Thou that we command fire to come down from heaven and consume them, even as Elias or Elijah did? Now listen to what they're doing. They're just taking the Old Testament example and applying it to their present situation, right? They're just saying, look, Jesus, we've read our Bibles. We read about these Samaritans. We read about them in Sunday school and how God sent down fire, those rotten Samaritans, and He burned them up. And here, look, they haven't changed a bit. And we're coming through their territory and they won't receive you. So let's just do what Elijah did back in the Old. Let's just do the same thing Elijah did, call down fire from heaven. Why not? That's what they did in the Old Testament. Yeah, that's a good question. Why not? Why not do that? What's changed? Well, something has changed. Well, what has changed, by the way? God hadn't changed. And people hadn't changed, but the change is there's a mediator present. A mediator between God and man. The man Jesus Christ, who's going, and He's just days away from it here, to take in His own body and take away the sins of the world, including the Samaritans here, including you and me here. Now look at Jesus' answer when they said, they're just applying the scriptural precedent. Let's call down fire from heaven and consume them. You know what? Elijah did it. God did it back there for him. Why not for us? Verse 55. He turned and rebuked them. Imagine that. He turned and rebuked them, and He said, You know not what manner of spirit you are of. Wow. Verse 56. For the Son of Man is not come to destroy men's lives, but to save them. And they went into another village. Now, why was it okay for fire to come down and consume them in Kings, and it's not okay now in the New Testament? Because a mediator has come to bridge the gap, to take away the sin that separated God and man. And now God's not got in mind sending down fire from heaven to consume people because of their sins. Now what God's got in mind is to reconcile, reconciliation. Not judgment because of your sins, but to reconcile the sinners. God and sinners reconciled. We sing that at Christmas time.